Hey guys, welcome back to the Lit Mag Lab podcast. I'm Jazz Marie, aka Vevna Forrow. So previously on the podcast, I was giving you a tour of Menace magazine, yeah. So do listen back and check it out. Again, you can see my screen out on YouTube, Spotify, and elsewhere. And today we'll be taking a look at Sabr Tooth Tiger Magazine. That is spelled SABR, then toothtigermagazine.com, yeah. So we're going to start off with the usual, learn more about Sabr Tooth Tiger and go from there. I'm heading over to the Chill Subs overview page, as you can see on my screen. And yeah, so they've had 149 bookmarks thus far. I'm going to scroll down towards the About section. So yeah, here we go, yeah. Sabr Tooth Tiger Magazine is an independent literary magazine based between Chicago and Dublin, aiming to showcase poetry, prose, and art from emerging and established creatives worldwide. Their publication seeks to unearth the beauty of patience, saber, the pulse of the body, tooth, and the courage of the spirit, tiger. They are searching for the bridge between the animal and the divine. They are based out of Chicago, Illinois, United States, yeah. And again, it says founded in 2024. Now, I think on CLMP, right, that directory is showing 2025, but I think it could be 2024. Anyways, so about 2-ish years old, yeah. Clean Air Club, Save the Night Chicago are two affiliations, it looks like, as well. Now, I'm going to read off some of the highlights here in the chill subs. So the type is creative. The vibe is get them while they're hot off the press. There's no payment, no fee at this time. The editor reported acceptance rate is showing 8%, whereas the chill subs tracker stats is showing 9.09%. So yeah, those who kept track or tabs on their submission decision through chill subs, their profile and account, yeah. On response time is showing chill subs tracker stats, right? 46 days. And then the editor reported time, to hear back on a decision looks like estimated is 60 days. Yeah. About 60 days to get a decision back on average. Print issues. Yes, they do print issues and they do not accept previous published work. So, no. Nominates for prizes. Yes, they do nominate for prizes. And yeah, thus far, some really great ratings. I won't read all of these off or the votes, but very cool. Yeah, it seems new writer friendly, for example, and Hidden Gem and are some of the top ones. Great editors, and yeah, that's great. Yeah, and there are other ones there under the rating section. And yeah, so we're gonna head over to stats, just take a peek at this. Again, I say this on all the episodes. These are not by any means all the submissions, Saber-Tooth Tigers ever received. It's just those who tracked the decision, through chill subs and kept tabs on it. And yeah, so it's showing here, for those who tracked, through chill subs, right? Accepted 2, rejected 20, pending 9, withdrawn 2. And yeah, it looks like they have a circulation number entered in here, 200, and averaging about 3,000 a month website visitors. Submission volume looks like about 500 a month is what it's showing or so. And solicited works 1%. So yeah, under read, there are some from the community. Those who had accepted work appear in the issue 1. And yeah, we'll take a look further on the website in a little bit here. They do have one open call. However, it is closing out today. So the deadline is not showing July 15th of 2026. Yeah. So although it is closing out today, they will have open calls in the future, right? Or open call, I should say. And we can pop this open here and see. Obviously, we'll head over to the website in a bit and check out the, site guidelines a bit further again and everything. But this is the call right now. This one was from June 30th to July 15th, 2026, closes, you can see, in one day as I'm doing the episode. So, yeah, so the Oracle's Almanac is the call title. It's an online call, it looks like, right? Literary prose, poetry, experimental, hybrid, slash hybrid art, right? So, what is the Oracle's Almanac, right? So, the Oracle's Almanac will entertain poetry, prose, poetry, flash fiction, and all things micro, so long as submissions are 333 words and under. It says submitters are allowed just one submission per month. Up to 3 submissions will be published per prompt. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So again, to have your work considered for the month, this is submit by the 15th and end of day. Yeah. And then there's a new prompt monthly. So it looks like they do monthly prompts. And I think that's a lot of fun, and yeah, they said they also encourage artists to submit artwork interpreting the prompt for a chance to be featured. So the July prompt is showing on feathers, and yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, totally on this podcast, on the series, right, I've covered various lit magazine journals that totally run, mini prompt challenges, right? It could be monthly, could be weekly. And yeah, of what we've seen thus far, theme calls, totally. I think they're a lot of fun. They really challenge writers and artists to really, think outside the box, to think outside of the box. I know that's a very common saying, but I think it really pushes you to challenge yourself. Sure, some writers and artists perhaps they like open general submissions, but I think when you present a prompt to someone or a challenge, it's cool to see the end result that everyone, or approach that everyone takes with it. The level of creativity when you present a prompt. It's very cool to see, how writers and artists approach that. I think it's very awesome. So totally, if you're a founding editor listening to this, or one about to start your own lit mag or journal, you don't necessarily have to have always themed issues or things of that nature. You can, for fun, have like online, publication prompts, challenges and stuff, or monthly challenges, weekly, even some do weekly. I've seen there's some lit magazine journals out there that I've seen they like have 3 words for the month, and everyone has to a couple words for the month, like a set number, and everyone has to incorporate that into their poem or work. So some really fun and cool ones out there, even outside of lit magazine journals, like this realm, right? So I mentioned this on the podcast. Poets, artists, some on social media, what they'll do is like a 30-day prompt challenge. Those fun ones. I've tried to partake in those. Totally, they're tough. If for those, if you miss a day, it's not like the end of the world or anything. It's just fun, it helps get your gears turning, right? And for if you want to do a daily write a day, right, those help, give you a focal point, right? I think that's nice. So yeah, on feathers, the July prompt, closing out today, sadly, but again, it says they have a new prompt monthly. So yeah, totally. Then I would just recommend, bookmarking Sabr Tooth Magazine, if you're listening to this episode, or circle back to them, and keep tabs on when they're open. Totally, they probably we'll take a look, but a lot of lit magazine journals, if we'll see the submission intake system. I think I saw Sabretooth Tiger Magazine on Subfolio in the Discover page, but we'll see. There is a notification feature in Subfolio and some submission managed systems to be notified when a lit mag or journal has open calls. So we'll see here. I'm gonna hop over to Duotrope really quick. So again, same thing that I mentioned in the about section. It's showing. I don't know if this is accurate or not. It could be, but it's showing published 2 times a year. Print and electronic. I think that could maybe just apply to print. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but human created work only, no AI use allowed. On yeah, so they looks like they do monthly prompt challenges, is what it looks like online, and then they have print issues. And I'm not going to read all of this over on Duotrope, but you can see it on my screen, right? If you're listening out on YouTube, Spotify, or elsewhere. And yeah. So yeah, visual art, they have the max amount of pieces and everything for poetry, nonfiction, fiction, right? So it's showing, temp closed on these, but again, they're not closed at this very moment or anything like that. That's why I like to check, chill subs, and also, the website, and collectively more than one place to see if they're open or not for submissions. Yeah, because Duotrope does annual checks, across the year, and yeah, if you have a call open like all year round, then typically it's a bit easier to, not up needing to update that as much, unless you have a break or something. But some lit magazine journals, absolutely, they have multiple windows that closing and opening, and it's hard to do that. Like chill subs, editors can update that themselves and all those things, right? So yeah, That's Sabr Tooth Tiger Magazine on Duotrope. Pretty much, same thing, coverage of the overview of the requirements and chill subs, right? Has the call plugged in there. So, yeah. We're going to head over real quick to CLMP, the Community of Literary Magazines and Presses. So they are a member of CLMP, it looks like. And in the directory plugged in here, we can see, information on the editor in chief. Again, the year established, it was showing differently on chill subs. So that's just one minor thing there, but I think it's 2024 actually. And yeah, so you can get a little bit more information sometimes on CLMP. Those are listed in directory of publishers or members of CLMP. It might state the average price per issue, like $20, or that the distributors, right, that are used, or it could be a POD, right, like Lulu or where others can pick up issues. The average circulation, looks like it's there too. And yeah, it's up to editors to update this information too. So yeah, but pretty much the same, what we saw elsewhere. I didn't see the masthead plugged into chill subs, but again, it's on the website. It's listed on CLMP. Madeline Blair. I apologize if I mispronounce any names again. So we'll head over to the website and check out the masthead a bit further and everything, right? So here we are. We're on sabertoothtigermagazine.com. And you can see here a publication of claws, teeth, and heart. Yeah. Now, I've already read the about and the mission of it. And yeah, so it was established in 2024 by Madeline Blair. Yeah. So that's cool. And they were, it looks like, featured in the list of where the cool kids are submitting their writing, showing a member of CLMP. And yeah, so that's cool. Now we're going to go to the masthead about section here. We can see here there's Madeline Blair, the founding editor in chief. Now, I'm not going to read off of all of these bios of the staff. If it's a smaller team, sometimes they do, but I'm just going to scroll through for you guys so you can take a look real quick. So they have prose co editors, art co editors, and poetry co-editors, and yeah, the managing editor as of current. So yeah, that's awesome. So Madeline Blair, founding editor-in-chief, so a poet, editor, and award-winning filmmaker from Chicago, Illinois. Madeline received her BA in creative writing from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Her poems appear or are forthcoming in Blood and Honey Lit, OK Donkey, Burial Magazine, Michigan City Review of Books, Luna Magazine, Exfraxis Magazine, and more. She was once quoted in the New York Times on her passion for clean air. Her work is often expressed through an evanescent, dreamlike, surrealist, and at times sardonic lens, but never lacks sincerity. So yeah, that's cool. So there was a staff, a masthead. We have the contact page here. I'm just gonna go through the pages and show you guys and do a tour as usual. And yeah, they do have, it looks like, a newsletter, right? And for updates, they have events that they host, it looks like, as well. So they have a reading collab, some other fun ones. Some lit magazine journals hold local events or reading events, launches surrounding issues and publication releases. Yeah. So this one looks like a de-extinction event. And yeah, I'm not going to click into these, but yeah, this one looks like it happened, I think that's showing July 7th. I'm not going to click on it, but you guys could totally check it out. Yeah, so these are some past events they've held, right, for the issues, right? Looks like Mystics and Saints on issue 2, and open mic events and some fun things, yeah. So totally, if you ever start your own lit matter journal, it's something to think about. Local events, getting together with other poets in the area, or anyone, could also, from around the world, right? Some lit matter journals, they do like Zoom events and calls, right? And on the call, and do reading events for fun are pretty cool as well, yeah. So yeah, there's an FAQ page. So here we go. Frequently asked questions. Always a good idea to have an FAQ page. So, when are your submission periods and how can I submit? So, it states here they publish their print issue biannually, and submissions are generally open for their spring slash summer issue in February through March, and their autumn slash winter issue in July through August. Yeah. So they also aim to have miscellaneous submission opportunities such as contests, prizes, interviews, and more throughout the year. Yeah, so beyond the monthly prompt challenges, beyond the issues, they hold, interviews and other things, which is really cool. So all submissions and calls, it says, will be regularly updated here, and they recommend you follow them on social media or subscribe to their newsletter to be notified for news and opportunities. How can I get involved on the team? So throughout the year, typically before submission calls or after publishing the issue, throughout the year, typically before submission calls or after publishing the previous issue, they will open applications for various team members depending on their needs. And you can follow them on social media or sign up for their newsletter again or receive news for opportunities. If you would like to join their team while applications are closed, it says feel free to contact them or reach out. It says please note that all team members operate on a volunteer basis, but they do offer benefits such as discounted print issues, professional development opportunities, industry resources, and more. Where can you participate in community events, if you're interested? So they're currently based in Chicago, Illinois, USA, where they host issue launch events, yeah, as we just discussed, right, and shared that page, readings, writings, workshops, and more. They are currently looking into expanding into other cities around the USA and abroad to host other in-person events. They also host virtual events. Anyone in the world may attend their online writing workshops, readings, open mics, more. Yeah, so they do a mix between in-person events and virtual ones, so I think that's great. Yeah. And yeah, so again, they reiterate you can follow them on social media and their newsletter for updates. And they mention are returns accepted? So they may accept returns on physical issues within 7 days of delivery, but only on orders within the USA. If you need to request a return exchange, contact them. Ebook orders are non-refundable. And how can you support Sabr Tooth Tigers? So, yeah, it states here, right? Support means the world to them. They are a small independent publication and thus rely on community contributions to keep the tiger alive. And they take donations via Ko-fi. And purchasing their issues is also a great way to support them, of course, and you get something to show for it too. It looks like they are using Squarespace for their website, and yeah. So it says, right, support helps with Squarespace fees, website URL hosting, book printing and shipping, in-person event hosting cost, and more. Yeah, so that's cool, yeah. And yeah, so they have here, frequently asked questions. That's great. And sometimes lit magazine journals will add to this over time if, there are other questions. Like when will others hear back, and things like that, or perhaps, some questions and stuff. You can see typically, right, the chill subs, average response time, but I think it is nice to have an idea of when you'll typically hear back on average, or, the time a decision takes on average to get back to someone. And yeah, in terms of how others can submit, so I think they are on a submission management system. I think it's Subfolio. I saw them on the Subfolio Discover page. Okay, so we're gonna head over and check out Subfolio's Discover page here. And if I scroll down, I have found Sabr Tooth Tiger Magazine. So yeah, there they are. You can see their other lit mags, journals, and presses on here. And yeah, just a reminder on the series. I know I say this a lot, but I've covered alternatives to submittable on this series. Not to say submittable is bad or anything like that. There are, some great alternatives out there, the past 2 years or so that came out to submittable, Dapple, Ola. Dual Suma has been around for quite some time as well, part of Duotrope, right? So totally, dig into the series. You'll find those episodes, on Subfolio. Subfolio also has its own YouTube channel and some of the other submission management systems I've covered on the series. Just brief overview, sharing my thoughts on them, and and yeah. So that's cool, yeah. Yeah. So there's Saber Tooth Tiger magazine, and what some lit mags and journals will do, they'll put like sometimes they'll mention the submission man system they're on, or I don't know when Saber Tooth Tiger magazine got on it, so sometimes the lit magazine journals will state we only intake submissions through our it could be Subfolio or whatever they're using, right? And instead of email, right? That everything should go through their submission man system. Because if you have things sent to email, sent other places, right? Still, even if state that, sometimes submitters or those interested in submitting, what I've seen, even when you have a submission man system, others still like try to use your address or inbox or help desk system and try to send their work through or try to get around it. But you should really, again, standardize things. When you stick to a system, you should really standardize things to only intake submissions through it, right? Because that's the purpose of it, right? To make your life easier, to organize everything, tag, label it appropriately, keep track of it, right? So yeah, definitely some great submission man systems out there. Again, I know I say that a lot, alternatives to Submittable. I covered Submittable on this podcast as well, and there's a various playlist on how to find more calls for lit mags, drones, and presses out there too. So yeah, we'll circle back to that. So I think I got everything on the about section covered, right? We covered the masthead, contact, events, and FAQ page. And we are going to skip shop for now. I'll come back to that. Let's go to the submit section. So the Oracle's Almanac, that's what we saw on the Chill Subs call page, right? Of Sabr Tooth Tiger. So it says submit to the Oracle. So yeah. And then it covers a little bit of the background, of the call and everything. I'm not going to read through all of this. You can see it on my screen, right? And yeah. So that's really cool, yeah. So again, just reiterates what I said earlier, and yeah, the Oracle's Almanac. I will quote this part off. I am a fan of Khalil Gibran's work. I'm sorry if I mispronounce name. So again, I'm really terrible at name pronunciation sometimes. But and yeah, so it says submit to the Oracle. So I'm not gonna read off. Well, I guess I could. Um, I can read this off. The fables in Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, presented as prose poems, give voice to universal truths, both big and small. When the mythical city of Orphalese and her residents ask of the titular prophet Al Mustafa to address topics ranging from joy to drinking, the personal folklore of Patti Smith is detailed in her memoir, Just Kids, positions the relationship between artist and art as a creation myth, with the act of creation as a necessary condition for living. Both books serve their readers as mighty meditations on the mundane. The Oracle's Almanac is a call to find the holy in everything, and every month they'll tell you where to look. Saber-Tooth Tiger invites others to moralize your musings, to prophesize your reveries, to present them with new ways of believing what they already know, like Al Mustafa, and to turn trinkets into talismans like Patti Smith. Again, the Oracle's Almanac prompt, right? It's basically stating so it's an archive of mantras, prayers, and psalms in perpetuity to celebrate everything from the toothpicks in your creaky kitchen drawer to the celestial. Leave no stones unturned. They might be sapphires or there might be funny looking isopods living under them. You'll never know what's in front of you until you look at it. And yeah, again, the Oracle's Almanac will entertain poetry, prose, poetry, flash fiction, and all things micro, so long, again, submissions are 333 words and under, and one submission per month is allowed. So, yeah, up to 3 submissions we publish per prompt. So, that's cool, how they have it structured, and 333 words, allotted and under. And again, different prompts each month, so on Feathers. So, if we click on the submit button, to click on Feathers, should take us to Subfolio, right? And yeah, yeah, so this is you can see the Subfolio call page, just reiterates everything in the call, ties back into, stating what was on their website. Always a good idea, because when others go across or may come across the Subfolio Discover page, right, they'll go to view submission calls, right? It'll take you to that page as well, right? And there is a cool notify me button, right, on future calls with Sabretooth Magazine right there in the upper right hand corner. And They also, state, right, how to withdraw, right, rights and compensation reminders. I won't read all of this, you can see it on my screen. But yeah, that's really cool. So, yeah. So again, they reiterate they primarily publish works in English but encourage poetry and translation of all languages. They only consider unpublished work that has not appeared in any book, magazine, website, nor on social media. And again, you can familiarize yourself with Saber Tooth Tiger by ordering a recent print issue or perusing the writing that appears on their website. They will not consider any work, of course, that has any hatred, racism, etc. in it, right? No discrimination or anything attacking in nature, right? And they do not consider any work that uses AI in any way. So it looks like this is actually different from what we saw on Chill Subs a little bit. There's a note here, right? A bullet point. So the first 100 submissions of each month are free of charge. After that, they request a small fee of $3 to help cover the cost of the magazine. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Some lit magazine journals do that, where for the, first, you know, X amount of submissions, right? Free of charge, right? A set number or free of charge, and then a fee is implemented for some. Not all magazines do that. Not all magazines or presses do that, but I've seen some do that. Another lit mag I know that does that, that has like free submissions, on until they hit their cap, or a free, um another lit mag I know that does something like that is OK Donkey, and Split Lit Magazine. I think they have certain windows where there's a no fee to submit, as well. On, if I recall, I could be wrong, but off the top of my head, yeah. So not all lit mags or journals are like that, but some do that. And I think it'd be nice if Chill Subs had a note about that, or additional notes others could, access on, you know, uh, fees and stuff like that. I don't have the membership to be able to unlock those, additional insights, so I don't know what that really entails. But I think it'd be nice to see that somewhere, evident. Yeah, there are, so not all lit magazine journals do that though. That's something, if you run a lit mag or journal or press, you could do. You don't have to, but it could help offset cost, And yeah, keep in mind, right, also with submission man systems, right, like Subfolio, Dapple, even Duosuma, I believe as well, right, there are ways to have optional tips enabled as well. And it helps to have as many, more than one option, I think, to help offset costs for your lit mag or journal. And I mentioned that in my guidebook, right, a list of ways that lit mags or journals can offset costs, right? This is one thing I've seen lit magazine journals do again, right? As I mentioned, where, submissions, the structure where a set amount of submissions are free of charge for the first month. And yeah, so, $3, after that, I mean, that's not a very high fee at all, $3. That's fairly reasonable. But yeah, some lit magazine journals will have like even some, the first week of the month free, or certain months of the year free. I've seen as well. Just an example. But yeah, $3 isn't bad at all. So if we scroll down, right, they again, I mentioned how to withdraw, rights and compensation, and we see the call there, right? And yeah, we see the Oracle's Almanac call here, and that'll take you back right to the guidelines page here that I was on. And yeah, you can see it closes here at 9:59 tonight, PM my time here. So yeah, do circle back. It looks like they have monthly prompts again. So yeah, that's cool. Going back to here, again, they state, right, they require first year rights, meaning they must be the first publication your work appears in. Following publication, all rights revert to the author, but they ask that Saber Tooth magazine is credited in subsequent reprints. In addition, they reserve the right to edit submissions in accordance with the rules of their style guide, but all edits will be shared with the author for approval before publication. And yeah, so they currently do not have the funds to regularly be a paying market, as they currently do not have the funds to regularly be a paying market, as they are a small independent team, but they aspire to in the future. They currently offer contributors free PDF copies of the print issue their work is in, as well as a discounted print copy price to cover printing and shipping costs. They proudly nominate work for the Pushcart Prize and other relevant prizes and awards. Yeah, so that's awesome, that they do that. And yeah, every lit magazine journal sort of has a slightly different structure, that we've seen across the series. And when it comes to, giving contributor copies, sometimes they're free, sometimes they're discounted, right? And if you're a CLMP member, right, and can't mail in physical copies to contributors, a minimum requirement is to offer discounted copies, or what some lit magazine journals do, offer PDF versions of them, right? And yeah, so that's cool that they do that, PDF copy of issues. Some lit magazine journal do discount copies. There are also some interactive PDF flip book readers I've covered on this podcast in some episodes too of the series, to sort of replicate that reading experience still, too. Most have a fee of some kind, but there are some out there where, they have a free, cap or something like that, right? So yeah, anyways, that's the call, the Oracle's Almanac, closing here today. So I would, yeah, highly recommend, you could, use the notify me, feature here on their Folio submissions landing page. And yeah, and that's cool. Yeah, we're gonna head back over. And yeah, it looks like also submissions for the Oracle's Almanac are open on the first of each month. So yeah, and then you can find right again what the monthly prompt is, right? Because I believe, right, it changes each month, right? That's what it looks like. The July prompt was on feathers, yeah. And submissions for their annual print magazine are currently closed and will reopen in the fall. Yeah. So we're gonna head back over to the Saber Tooth Tiger Magazine website. Yeah, I'm just gonna go back here, and yeah, and yeah. So we covered the Oracle's Almanac, and yeah. So you can read more about it when you get a chance, or stop by their website. And yeah, I'm not the greatest at pronunciation and names and things like that, but I did grow up reading Khalil Gibran's work, and yeah, The Prophet, and my grandpa in KL actually gifted me one of his books, way back. I think I was in my teens, or it could have been around middle school, middle school, I believe, yeah. And yeah, so that's awesome. And, and it mentions Patty Smith as well there. So we're going to go to the submit section, print issue submission guidelines. Now, print is currently closed, right, for their annual print issue, but they have that monthly prompt issue challenge open, right? So, still, I'm going to just go through this, right, and read this through. And yeah, so they do, mention here, right? Some of these things could be reiterated maybe in the FAQ section, I think, in terms of rights and compensation and things like that, or collectively, put there, or linked to general guidelines as well, in the FAQ section. But yeah, again, so it says expect submissions for issue number 3 to reopen in fall/winter of 2026. Please note that they are shifting to Subfolio and no longer accepting submissions by email. And it says, please note they are shifting to Subfolio and no longer accepting submissions through email. So yeah, they do have that stated on their website, and that's great. So yeah, again, some of these things could be plugged in maybe to the FAQ section again, pertaining to maybe rights and compensation, and some of the other things we saw, on the Subfolio landing page, how some submissions, the first 100 are free, and then there's a $3, right, fee, right, for those that come after that 100th mark, yeah. But yeah, So that was pertaining to the online prompt call, though, the one I just read. I'm not really sure if they do that for all submissions. Also, like their print issue as well has that same structure, right? The first 100 being free, and then the others having a $3, fee. That come after. I don't know if that's how it's set up, or different from the Oracle's Almanac call. Yeah. So, general guidelines of the print issue, which is not open right now. They welcome submissions from all over the world. Submissions are free, and they expect response times to be within 2 months of receiving them. So they do state that for print issues. Yeah, so I think online it wasn't entirely clear on the response time back for those, or approximate time. Sometimes when you submit to late magazine journals, though, through their submission management system, they'll send a kickback on estimated response times, though, totally. And simultaneous submissions aren't encouraged, and all that they ask is that if your work is accepted elsewhere, that you let them know immediately. Of course, right? I don't think it would be via email, right? Because they are right shifting to folio. So as you saw, right, they mentioned right how to withdraw, right? So there's right ways to withdraw through your Subfolio account. So I think that just needs to be updated at some point in time. Right. Yeah. Cause since they migrated to Subfolio, I think recently that'll might change the wording of that. But yeah, so your name should appear on your cover letter, but not in the submitted work. No identifying information inside the work submitted. And again, it would greatly assist them if you can submit your work in EB Garamond 11 point single spaced. With each submission, please include a third person bio no longer than 100 words in the body of your email. They will not consider work that is racist, sexist, homophobic, anything hateful or attacking, again, or showcasing discrimination, as I stated earlier. And again, they will not consider any work that uses AI in any way. So poetry guidelines, right, for their print issue call, again, this would be for, right, Sabr Tooth Tiger publishes poetry of all types, free verse, form, experimental, and more. To submit for their print issue call, it's currently closed again, but it says send up to 5 original previously unpublished poems in one single doc or PDF file with one poem per page, 8 pages maximum, and title the file with your last name and indicate poetry. Example is last name underscore poetry. And then it says, please indicate poetry submission in your subject line. You may also include a brief cover letter in the body of your. So yeah, again, where it's saying email, this wouldn't be accurate, right? Because they just migrated to Subfolio. So I think some of these. So I think some of the wording will be updated at some point in time, because they were in the progress of shifting to Subfolio, like very recently. It looks like so. I think that wording will change. So, what I would say is, right, just don't put any identifying information, within your submission file at all. The cool thing about Subfolio, right, and some submission man systems, right, is that on the back end, there's, for editors, they can, have it where there's anonymous review, right? So they don't see, names of the submission or anything like that, like the reading team or anything like that. And, yeah, so there are features like that, and I think with Subfolio, right, some of the founding, the last round, or the editor, the main editor, right, eventually I think it'll get to this point where you can unblind submissions, as they get to you, right, more easily, as I'm saying, the reading team, as of presently, right, they can not see, you can have it switch to anonymous review for the rounds of review, and that's very neat. So yeah, I think this wording will change because they just migrated to Subfolio. So where it says email, just note that that's not what presently it is. Just stick to, again, what is Veritarian, on their guidelines of, typically on the call guidelines itself, you'll find, some great reminders, right, and things like that. So this isn't for the print call, but again, there'll typically be guidelines for the print call and stuff when that's open, and when it gets closer to that point, I'm sure this part will be updated a little bit, since they're no longer intaking submissions through email and using Subfolio, right, and yeah. So um, they consider individual poems as well as group pieces. They would love to consider poetry and translation as well, so long as you have permission from the original author to do so, or can translate your own poems to English from their original language. Possible languages include Arabic, Urdu, Farsi, German, French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, Greek, Irish Gaelic, Japanese, Chinese, etc. When submitting translate poetry, please include the work in both its original language and the English translation. So I think that's nice that they do that. I know not all lit magazine journals do that. Some have like a definitive no on translation, but that's nice that they do that. I think that's cool, right? That they consider that, prose guidelines. So Sabretooth Tiger publishes fiction, essays, and creative nonfiction. It says to submit, please send up to three original, previously unpublished pieces, no longer than 6,000 words each. Multiple pieces should be in separate doc files. So yeah, again, with their move to Subfolio, so I don't know per se if they, want, it states right, no identifying information in the submission file. So I think, best bet for the print, call, right, is just to circle back and see what the guidelines are when that opens up in the fall/winter, right? Because some lit magazine journals have it where, again, it's anonymous review where, no matter what the file name or the stuff entered in the name field stuff, that's, the reading team sees that as, a blind review, right, anonymous review, and then they don't really see all of those other things, right, like submission man systems. Some of them have it where the file name is right, you don't see that or anything like that. But again, you shouldn't put identifying information within the file or anything like that. Yeah. So yeah, so I'm sure, this might change a little bit the wording, since they no longer intake submissions through email. But yeah, so yeah, and just keep that in mind. To I would circle back to see how this wording changes with the just slightly, with how they want submissions to be titled for the print issue, and also um, the file naming and all of that stuff, right? Because they're not intaking submissions through email anymore. And yeah, so that wording might change slightly, but the guidelines pretty much, the allotted pieces, I think perhaps that's probably going to stay the same, right? That's pretty fixed with most lit magazine journals with their, print issue series and stuff, like the allotted amount to submit each time. So I'll read that portion off again. So for art guidelines, right? Saber-tooth tiger accepts all mediums of artwork, including painting, collage, mixed media, digital photography, sculpture, and more. They will not consider AI generated art. Please submit up to 5 individual art pieces, including high resolution images of your artwork with your submission. If you are submitting photographs of your artwork, sculpture, fiber arts, paintings, etc., please consider high quality photography conventions such as lighting, angles, and framing. Please indicate, yeah, again, same thing, a circle back to, I think, how, the call, when it opens up closer to the fall or winter, or, maybe circle back to their site, right, and just double check how they want, everything, named, and, the file name, and, the title of the submission when you're submitting to them, through Subfolio. I'm sure they'll update this very soon here. So since they just moved to Subfolio fairly recently, and it says you can include a brief artist statement about your work, and yeah, they'll probably create some fields in Subfolio for that, or a place for you to do that. I'm thinking like a, input box similar to the ones you see for like cover letters or something. Yeah. So rights and compensation. I did read this off already, so I'm not gonna state this again. But again, they require first seer rights, meaning must be the first publication of, meaning they must be the first publication your work appears in, and following publication, all rights revert to the author. But they ask that you just credit Saber Tooth Tiger Magazine in subsequent reprints. And yeah, again, typically editors will work with you, to edit, do minor edits or get your approval before publication, for print especially. And yeah, and yeah, so that's pretty much it. They have a support link, right? Looks like they have Instagram and X, formerly Twitter, links at the bottom here. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So just a reminder, yeah, that wording where it mentions email will change, I'm sure, in the near future, since they just moved to Subfolio, you know. But the online call, it looks like they've updated that, you know, and the guidelines are all current for that and the details of that. Yeah, so July prompt, right, is coming to a close here tonight. But when I'm doing this podcast episode, so because it's a monthly prompt, right? So that's cool. Yeah. So August, check back on that for sure. They look like they have, aside from the Oracle's Almanac, the monthly print, aside from the Oracle's Almanac, it looks like, you know, the online challenges, right? Looks like, you know, and the print issue submission guidelines and stuff. There is a Clarion Poetry Prize. Let's take a look at that. So the Clarion Poetry Prize, that's Clarion, and yeah, it looks like it says here in the about section, right? Legendary American singer songwriter Jeff Buckley said, "Grace is what matters in life. Tragedy, pain, love, and death. Grace under pressure. Grace as endurance, the muscle that keeps reaching." They seek poems that test and extend that claim. Work that embodies and risks moving beyond Christian and Western vocabulary. Send poems that dwell in the ecotone between the sensuous and the divine. Animate the sacred without diminishing it. Explore the charged border between grotesque and holy. And ask, how do we forgive? How do we atone? How do we reimagine the beloved? The prize's name, Clarion, comes from the medieval trumpet, a call meant to carry. They want work that sounds like an announcement, clear, urgent, impossible to ignore, experimental, and hybrid work welcome. Yeah, so that's cool. It looks like they do have a guest judge for the Clarion Poetry Prize, and that's awesome. Yeah, and they've had past guest judges as well. So the guidelines here. So for the Clarion Poetry Prize, just for this, right? It looks like Sabr Tooth Tiger Magazine has a contest fee of $10, right? And this is going to change again. You know, they'll probably, you know, set up this call right through Subfolio and the Clarion Poetry Prize, right? When it reopens, it looks like in 2027. And yeah, so some of this may change since, you know, they no longer write intake submissions through email, but you can see it on my screen. And yeah, so I'll read off some of the other things here pertaining to it. So the winner of the Clarion Poetry Prize will receive at least $250 and a featured interview. Two finalists will also be awarded $75. The winner and two finalist poems will be featured in Sabretooth Tiger Magazine issue number 2, Mystics and Saints, and each receive a complimentary print copy. So yeah, that's awesome. You know, typically most contests, not all, but quite a few contests out there in the lit mag world, they do have some sort of, you know, entry fee. Not all. There are absolutely some out there that are fee free and still award cash prizes, but you know, $10, you know, that's not bad. I've seen some contests in lit mag world with some super high entry fees, right? We've seen some, you know, I think with $25, right, or higher, right? That's pretty high. Yeah, you know, considering there's a cash award and, you know, additional things like getting, you know, featured, you know, an interview and getting in the print issue, and you know, the typically the entry fees help, you know, go towards, right, the facilitation of that cash award prize, right, and you know, maybe operational expenses and things like that for the magazine and the issues release, all of that, right. So, process here, they adhere to the CLMP Conduct Code of Ethics. That's nice that they reiterate that, right? The Community of Literary Magazine presses. Again, you know, I mentioned this, you know, CLMP is a, you know, has a added benefit and bonuses, right? You can get discounts, right? Things like that through becoming a CLMP member. So do listen back to those 2 episodes on the podcast where I cover CLMP. And yeah, it's not a requirement to be a member of the CLMP membership, right? To be a lit mag or journal or press, right? But it can be beneficial, no doubt. You know, for sure. So yeah, and you know, for the contest, right, they reiterate, right, they want to make it as fair as possible, right, so they don't consider anyone who's affiliated with the editor-in-chief, the prize judge, or you know, any guest judges or anything like that, you know. So yeah, they make it as fair as possible, right. The Clarion Poetry Prize entries are read and judged honestly. And yeah, the editor in chief reads all prize submissions free of any identifying information. So yeah, they do a blind reading for the Clarion Poetry Prize. That's awesome, And yeah, so it mentions here, if the contest fee poses a significant barrier for you, reach out, right? They have a limited number of fee waivers they may grant. All fees go toward the prize winnings, and any leftover will assist in the cost of printing physical copies of the magazine. Yeah, so basically what I stated earlier. And yeah, they encourage submissions from poets of all identities, cultures, and backgrounds. So really inclusive, and yeah, that's great. So yeah, with their other submission calls, right? I think with the whole thing with the, so yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So again, the wording where it's stating email and stuff, that'll change, right? Because they migrated to Subfolio. Yeah, so we covered all the stuff under submit. We covered the Oracle's Almanac, pre-issue submission guidelines. So yeah, that's everything under submit, right? The Clarion Poetry Prize, I think that's pretty neat. Again, if you ever start your own lit manga journal, right, you could make an annual prize of some kind. It you could have a cash award or some thing that a poet wins, or the top three writers, and it's a lot of fun to create a contest called totally. Yeah, so we're gonna go to the read section now. Let's take a look at issue two, past issue, right? And yeah, so they have it set up like this: table of contents, letter from the editor. Let's click on that. Let's see where it takes us to. So yeah, that's nice that it has a letter from the editor plugged in there. You can see issue number two, Mystics and Saint, right? You can add it to your cart there. It's $20. And they have the winner of the 2026 Clarion Poetry Prize listed there, right? Runner ups, right? Honorable mentions, right? That's really cool. And yeah, and so they have cover art, right? And the purchase link. Let's see. Yeah, so it takes you out to here, to order the issue, right? Add to cart. And yeah, it looks like the ebook version is $6 as of 2026, and then the print is $20 currently. And they have all the contributors listed there, and then issue one, that's what it looks like. You can see they have on the back of that, right, the ISSN number here, right, and the barcode. And yeah, so they have the ISSN on the back here, number and barcode, right? Again, I talk about in this podcast, the importance and difference between ISSN and ISBNs, right? The difference between those. And yeah, so it looks like issue one was 134 pages, 6x9 paperback. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So they have it, all the poetry contributors, prose, art, and yeah. And they put order, note, delivery mentions there, right? And looks like this just released, right? I think June 2026. Copies are printed to order and can take up to 1 month to be delivered, right? That was the ordering note here again. And yeah, so that's cool how they have it laid out. It's very organized. Again, I know I say that word a lot on this podcast, but it is. And yeah, so that's cool. So we go back to issue two here on the table of contents. Let's just click on one of these. Let's click on the winner of the Clarion Poetry Prize, self portrait as Wet Horrors by Cale Hensley. Just curious what it looks like. So yeah, so they have the piece plugged in on the website, right? And an author statement, even, right? And their bio. Yeah, a third person bio, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's great that they highlight pieces from the Clarion Poetry Prize, and even have runner-ups and honorable mentions, and then other pieces from the issue. What some lit magazine journals do, right, they won't make all pieces available to read entirely from the print issue. They'll link a couple different pieces from the issue available to read completely free, right? To give others the opportunity to get a feel for the work they publish, and to showcase work, right, online and stuff. And also for nomination events and things like that, best of the net, right, ones that were published online first, right, things like that. Take that into consideration. Nomination events, some of them are, online and then are okay if they appear later in print, right? Things like that. So yeah, that's nice that they have. I'm just clicking through. So you can see it's pretty standardized when they share pieces from the print issue online, Yeah, so they have the piece, right? And yeah, it looks like, and yeah, that's cool. So I'm just clicking through some of these, yeah. So yeah, that's really cool, yeah. So very, very organized, the overall site. They don't have a search on the website. I think if there's ever a substantial amount of pieces published online, it just makes things easier to find with a search. But that's just me. It's more of a preference, I think, But I think it's always a good idea to have a search over time, if you have like, 10, 15, 20 issues, 30 over time, for sure. Or several hundred pieces published online for sure. Definitely can help find things. So they have past issues, right? So again, Sabr Tooth Tiger Magazine, still fairly new, right? In its first 2 years, right? So there'll be more issues over time for sure plugged in here, and interviews. So they do interviews. That's a lot of fun too, right? I think that's great. You can learn more about contributors. It looks like, and conversations with others, right? And yeah, looks like they have, you know, co-editors, right? Poetry co-editors talk to contributors, right, about their work, and yeah, they've done quite a few, so that's awesome. So some lit magazine journals, they'll plug in interviews on their website, or what some do, I've shared in this podcast, they'll plug it into like their Substack too, additional space outside of their website too, or share them both there. That's what some magazine journals do as well. But yeah, it's great that everything's centrally accessible too. Everything is easy to find. It's not super difficult. Yeah, a lot of fun. We can click into one of these. Let's do a conversation with Mal Grace. So yeah, you can see they have the bio, right, the questions and everything laid out, and yeah, you can see issue one, poetry interview. So I think interviews are a lot of fun. You can learn more about poets, ask them questions, some fun things, right, about their work a little bit further. It's a great way, to share, further, right, about, what the writer was thinking behind their piece, to learn more about them. And yeah, and yeah. So that's cool, and others can share more about their writing process, and can learn more about them, create some fun questions around, learning more about poets, writers, and their work, writer, artist, even. Always fun. I see a lot of lit magazine journals do that. I'm a fan of interviews and doing things like that, Q&As and stuff. Very fun, yeah. So that's pretty much it. Let's head over to the shop, right? So that'll take us to issues again. You can see they have it laid out like this, and that's nice. They show the front and back cover. And yeah, when you hover over it, right? I think that's a nice touch to it. So yeah, I like how they have some quotes on the back there too, on some of them. And they have all the contributors' names and then the winner of the poetry prize, right? That's very cool, that they run, the Clarion Poetry Prize. So you can see they offer both an ebook and print version. I think it's always a good idea to have an ebook and print version or digital version. Now, in terms of PDF downloads, I think whenever you have, a very long issue, right, PDF downloads are a bit clunky. So there are, again, on this podcast series, a couple different episodes where I cover PDF options, some platforms and stuff, or to make it more interactive and to flip through those, and yeah. But for the most part, a lot of lit magazine journals do offer, PDF downloads. I offer that as an option as well, but there are a couple there are a couple magazine, libraries and stuff, um, digital magazine libraries and ones that have mobile app capabilities, where there's no upfront cost, but it's more of a thing. They have to vet your publication, right? And, see if they want to, intake your magazine or accept it. And they do like, some do a 50-50 split, right? Or 60-40 split, right? Off of purchases and subscriptions, right? And yeah, So there aren't a ton out there with no upfront cost, for digital, mobile app reading capabilities or even web-based ones, magazine reader apps and stuff. But totally, always nice to offer, I think a digital version. So that's great that they do that. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. There's a stockist portion of the site. So yeah. So we can see here, right, places that picked up Saber Tooth Tiger magazine, yeah, and have shelved it, right? There's bookstores here. Yeah, so another great example, if you're trying to get into bookstores, on you could start off locally, right? That's your best bet, right? And yeah, I think that's really cool that they were able to get into, it looks like physical locations, right? Located locally in, where they're based, state wise. And yeah, that's really cool. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, we've covered everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we've covered everything. And they have a login shop, card, you know, number here, right? When you add to cart, right? Any issues. So yeah, overall, very, very cool, So now movie Rex, guys. Yeah, so now coming to my favorite part, I'm just joking. I Not necessarily my favorite part of the podcast series, but I give movie recs. So for those of you unaware, right, just listening to this episode, I'm a huge fan of those creature feature type films, and I grew up watching a lot of the ones that appeared on the Sci-Fi Channel, right? SYFY. All kinds of flicks I watched on there over the years. There was, shark ones, alligator movies, ones about bees or hornets or swarms of ants overrunning a town, and pterodactyls, totally, you know. So personally, I think it's really cool when movies, bring back, on screen, prehistoric or animals that went extinct, right, and things of that nature from the past. And yeah, so I know some will say the CGI on this movie I'm about to share with you guys was super unrealistic and not that great, perhaps in some eyes, but it's one movie I've watched quite a few times over the years. I actually saw it last winter again. And yeah, I've definitely seen it more than three times across my life, at least three, four times or more. And I don't know what it is about the movie. I just enjoy, some films. We all have those films that I saw this when I was much younger, and it's just one film I never forgot. And it's Sabretooth. You can see it's Sabretooth, right? Sabretooth, the film. This one is from 2002. Now I know it got a terrible rating, but I personally really enjoyed this film. It was memorable to me. So definitely, if you've never seen this film, give it a watch. I know, again, the CGI perhaps isn't the best, or anything like that. But I've seen this film quite a few times, along with all kinds of other creature feature films. On most recently, I was watching, one of those orca films, The Killer Whale, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. It's really sad, actually in real life, the things that happen to orcas, and a lot of the things, rather tragic, right? But yeah, I'm a huge fan of prehistoric movies and stuff of that nature, right? And Jurassic Park, that film franchise, a fan of that as well. More so the older films, for sure. But I've seen the newer ones too. And yeah, so if you've never seen Sabretooth 2002, guys, check it out again. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I give movie recs, that Lit Mags or Turtles remind me of, or memories along the way. I use this podcast also as a diary of some sort, so just sharing some movie memories and other things, along the way for fun. Yeah, so I think Sabretooth Tiger Magazine is pretty cool. I love the name. Another saber-toothed tiger, I think we're all familiar with, right, is Diego from Ice Age. I grew up watching those movies too, way back. And yeah, so I think saber-tooths are really fascinating, that whole, world of extinct species is very cool, no doubt. It's very sad, of course. You think about all the species that went extinct over the years, way, way back, and you're like, I wonder what, would have happened if they didn't go extinct, if they were here today with us, right? Like the dodo bird and other ones, right, guys? It's like OMG, right? It's really interesting how they, existed in this world, right, at some point in time, very, very cool, no doubt. So, yeah. So do check out Saber Tooth Tiger Magazine. Again, they have, it looks like, monthly prompts, at the first of each month. So do circle back eventually, later on in the, I think, right, fall or winter, right? Closer to fall, they open up the print call, right? Which is really cool. And yeah, so that's basically it. SaberToothTigerMagazine.com. Just wanted to cover it with you guys. And yeah, I think Madeline has done a great job with Sabretooth Tiger Magazine thus far. And can't think of, anything else. I think anytime, again, I mentioned this on, some podcast episodes and stuff. So anytime I think there are fees involved, after like this thing here, the first 100 submissions of each month are free of charge. After that, they request a small fee of $3, to help cover the cost of the magazine, right? So, um, I think it's always a good idea to have a note about, whether or not fees are non-refundable or not, and stuff like that, or things like that. Just a small note there. And yeah, and even with contest fees and stuff, non-refundable and stuff like that, if it is or not. Or the cases of where things would be refundable, right? I think typically, what I've done, typically if anything is past, like, I don't do expedite submissions anymore, and I'll share why maybe in another episode. But if anything is past its point or the agreed upon time, typically I've always given a refund. I've always given a refund for those cases. But I know some lit magazine journals, they typically have a non-refundable policy in place, and things like that. So yeah, no refunds on fees and stuff like that or anything like that. But anyways, so that's awesome. Saber-tooth tigers on Subfolio. There are other lit magazine journals, since I last shared Subfolio or talked about it on an overview episode, right? Quite a few that have joined up. Don't forget about some of the other submission management systems out there. I am currently myself in my own lit magazine journal, right, with Dippity, right, using Subfolio as well. There we are. So very cool. I personally really like Subfolio, but again, you have to try what works best for you and your lit mag journal structure. So there are other submission management systems out there totally to check out as well. So don't forget about those. But I also really like Subfolio. So yeah, that's Saber Tooth Tiger Magazine. So read more about it and check out some past issues and pieces that are up. Totally, it helps to pick up print issues of lit mags, and support them. Yeah. P.S. guys, so I just wanted to tack this on. So I believe that uh the Oracle's Almanac, I'm not sure when that was started. I think it could be a fairly new series that Sabretooth Tiger Magazine has launched. And it wasn't explicitly clear to me, I think, on this page, that it was, online only, or, digital, in that sense. I think I read somewhere on social media in a feed that it mentioned it's a monthly digital folio of micro work. So yeah, I'm again assuming that's why I referred to it as an online challenge or call. However, I think it was a bit it might be good to reiterate that if it is out on the subfolio call and on the website there too, because it wasn't really clear to me that it was a digital folio of micro work, a monthly digital one. And yeah, so I don't know. I know sometimes lit magazine journals, sometimes they'll put pieces in print or do others, spin-off series and print series, and new ones, So I don't know. So for right now, I think it's stated like back in June, I saw on social media, I think that it was a monthly digital folio of micro work again. So I just wanted to clarify that. I know I stated online challenge, online call, and yeah, so I think it could be just good idea to reiterate that, for calls like this to state and clarify if it's, solely digital, or, pieces would ever be put in print or anything of that nature, or if it's a print series, or solely digital. I think it is just digital at this moment. But again, just wanted to reiterate that I wasn't 100% sure initially, but from what I saw on social media, it looks like it, is a digital series that they're doing, digital one, and then they have their print issue series, right? So separate print issue series, yeah, and then the Clarion Poetry Prize. So yeah, just wanted to tack that on because it might, I don't know if it, if what I said was confusing at all. But I wasn't entirely sure about that for the Oracle's Almanac. So I just wanted to put a note and tack that on towards the very end, yeah. So take care, yeah. That's Saber Tooth Tiger Magazine, yeah.